Hello, I'm Carmela. Welcome to my blog. And this is about thriving and not just surviving. And of course, in most societies, whether it's today's or whether it was 200 years ago, a lot of our stress is what we call people stress. And that can be quite a difficult one to resolve because of the way that we are. But one of the best things we can do, because there are various ways, for example, if you imagine two people walking together, face to face, coming together with this people stress, you can just sidestep. That's one of the possibilities. Another possibility, you're walking towards the person that's causing you the stress and vice versa. And so you can just jump down, hide from it. That's number two. Number three, you can walk towards the person or people, and then you can start to shout and push and shout and push and shout and push, and nobody gets anywhere, but still it makes a lot of noise. And the final one that you could do, and it's probably the most difficult one, is to walk towards the person, link arms with them, and you both walk back, and so they're seeing your viewpoint or what you can see, and then you turn around and you walk the other way, metaphorically speaking, as it were, and you can see their point of view, hopefully. Now, the first one, when you just dodge the problem, it's still there, it's taking up your energy, because if you haven't fixed it on Monday, you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and it seems even bigger problem than Monday. And so oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And so it goes on, and it's there all the time in your head, and making your shoulders up here, making your heart beat faster, causing anxiety and causing unnecessary stress. So that's not really a good way of solving a problem, a people problem. The second system of where you just crouch down when you see the person. I remember doing this in a class once, and the reaction of nearly everybody in that class, and they were all adults, from 22 to 52 or 60 even, their immediate reaction was they felt they wanted to kick the person that crouched down. It sort of brought out a predatory reaction in them against the person who was quaking in their boots. So that's not really going to be a helpful one, and it's not resolving the problem. You're not facing it, you're not examining it, you're not discussing it with the other person or other people. You're just trying to kick it down the line, as it were, into the long grass, and hope it will resolve itself. Occasionally it does, but not that often. The third way of dealing with it was when we come together and then we start to not necessarily fight, but we're shouting, you're wrong, no, I'm not, you're wrong, you're stupid, you're this and that and the other. And we do see an awful lot of that at the moment. And I suppose it's been with us ever since mankind, humanity has been on this earth. And we are rather fond of our own set of beliefs and way of thinking. But sticking to them and trying to convince the other person by force or by shouting or by violence isn't going to work. It just magnifies the problem. It causes stress for both parties, and nothing is resolved. Neither of you moved one way or the other. It's still there. It's still causing you indigestion, headaches, sleepless nights, etc. The final possible solution, it's not always a possibility, but is trying to see the other person's point of view and trying to get them to see your point of view, and that way there's a way of seeing, is there a common ground that you can both work from? Instead of being at polar opposites like this, if you can get somewhere where you can work from, well, okay, I'll see to that if you'll agree to that, and then I'll do this if you'll do that, etc. And of course, this is how top negotiators, whether it's business negotiation or whether it's work negotiation, family, friendships, partnerships, romantic partnerships, or whatever it is, if you can get it to work, it is a wonderful way of resolving things, because at the end of the day, we are human. We get things wrong. We do get brainwashed. And by brainwashed, I don't mean it in a bad way necessarily. If you've been brought up in a strict religious religious sect, if you like, as I was, then the people that are brainwashing you believe they're doing it for the best. My mother was a delightful woman, and she thought that she was saving the eternal soul, both of me and my two sisters. Obviously, there came a point, probably when we were all at university or after that we started to question, and we no longer believed her, followed her set of beliefs, and nobody argued about that. It was just one of those things which I think made her very sad, but I think she accepted it. And of course, brainwashing can happen in many ways, and people can be bullied into, if you don't think like us, then you're not one of our clan, you're not one of our group. And humans need to belong. This is one of the biggest problems we have, being a member of a community. And if we don't toe the line, if we don't abide by the beliefs of that community, depending on which community it is and what their set of rules are and how extreme they are, and extreme I mean inflexible, then we either have to change or pretend to change our thinking pattern, or really change our thinking pattern and become as extreme and as blocked in our, narrow-minded in our way of thinking. However, whatever manner you find that you can solve these problems, and hopefully you can, one of the worst things you can do is not forgive. And when people are particularly cruel, and they can be, quite shockingly cruel, psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically even. Just ask anybody who lives with somebody who's a bit of a sociopath or a narcissist or whatever. It can be hell. But one of the things that we have to remember is that if we react to that with bitterness, with unrelenting anger and need for revenge, and I'm sure some people perhaps do need revenge if something really terrible's happened to them. I don't know. Sadly, luckily for me, I haven't had any. I've not been in prison or in a war or in a concentration camp, so I really, I've not been physically hurt much. So it's difficult for everybody to forgive. But I think that if you don't forgive, and that doesn't mean forgetting, that's an important difference to make. We can forgive somebody, but it doesn't mean to say that we forget what they've done and we totally expunge that from our memory, because that wouldn't necessarily be a sensible thing to do. We have to learn from our life experience. And if our life experience has shown us that Mr. Smith is unreliable or is abusive or is devious or dishonest or whatever, we can forgive him if he's stolen from us or if he's been abusive to us. But we don't forget it, because then he can do it again. And there is the very old saying, if somebody abuses you once as an adult, abuses you as in steals from you or whatever, that's their fault. If they do it twice, it's your fault because you've allowed it to happen. So I do think that finding a way to forgive people, not condoning their behaviour, but realising that they are also human. And quite often what happens is something called transference. So I'm sure most people at some point in their lives have come across a person in any surroundings, and that person is totally taken against them, and they've done nothing wrong. They've been friendly, polite, helpful towards that person, but that person is totally taken against them in every form whatsoever. They've been rude, they've been unpleasant, they've gossiped behind their back in a nasty way, they've tried to cause them problems. And this can be very, very hurtful. But quite often, it's not actually you that has caused the problem. And a lot of us think, oh, what have I done wrong? What have I said wrong? I must have done something to be receiving this behaviour. But quite often this transference that I'm talking about is, supposing when you were young, you had, let's say, a hockey teacher that really humiliated you. You weren't very good at hockey. They were very unpleasant to you, very insulting. They humiliated you in front of the rest of the hockey team. But you were a student, and in my days when you were at school, the teacher was all powerful, and the students couldn't hit back, and they were a very different setup from today. So you're in a powerless situation, and that stays, that sticks with you. And supposing 20 years, 30 years down the line, you meet a totally different person, but they remind you of this dreadful hockey teacher. Now you're an adult, and that reminding you has brought up all those repressed feelings, all that feeling of humiliation, that feeling of powerlessness that you had as a school child or whatever, a student. And you transfer it onto this person that's triggered those feelings through no fault of their own. They might just have the same shape of face, or the same voice, or the same way of speaking, or come from the same area, have the same accent. There's all sorts of things that can trigger this. And I've had it happen to me both ways. I found myself feeling very angry towards somebody, and really angry, and yet knowing this person was really lovely, and not being able to work out, why do I feel, what's this person done to me now? And it wasn't until I was able to add one-on-one and realise that this person really reminded me of somebody who had power over me when I was a child, from school, not a family member or anything. And then I realised, oh, that's what it is. It's all those emotions that I couldn't express then. I couldn't say anything to the person because I was not in that position, powerful position. And then you can, and you do. And of course, it's always good to think when somebody is angry, does this person remind me of somebody from my childhood? That's why I'm feeling so annoyed by it. And so that is a way of transference. But if we hang on to bitterness, if we hang on to that anger for years, as some people do, then we've lost, because we make ourselves ill. And that's not really what we need to do. And sometimes, as I realised, probably about 30 years ago, I'd had harboured a lot of bad feelings to a particular man in my life who was no longer around. He died, but I thought that he'd caused me a huge amount of problems, which he had. And it took me an awful long time to realise that it was the young me that I needed to forgive, not this person. It was the young me who was vulnerable, who perhaps believed everybody had the integrity and honesty that my father had, that men didn't lie to you, and all the sort of things that you believe, or I believed as a young woman. I can't generalise. And it was amazing, the freedom from stress. Once I realised, no, it's not that person that you need to carry on being angry with. There's no point anyway, they're dead. But it's you need to forgive, because you're in a situation which you didn't know how to deal with. And when we can let that go, that is extremely good for our health. So that's just looking at different ways of coping with people stress and ways of learning how to forgive even though we don't forget. And I hope you found that helpful in some way in your own life. And if you have, well, perhaps you'd like to subscribe and also give it a tick. And maybe if you think it's helpful, tell somebody else. So I shall be back again talking about more things to try and help you thrive and not just survive. Life is short and we need to enjoy it as much as we can. And that means thriving. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.